This is some footage of the last LSC race before Christmas 2022. I've ditched the sound as all you can hear is the outboard and the crew and I chatting away. I'll only identify the boats by their sail numbers, so I'll leave the people out of it. Hopefully if I spot something that I think you could improve on, nobody gets offended if I mention it. So on to some clips and some commentary. This first clip, 1444, is an experienced sailor, and I'm not sure exactly, but maybe the first time out sailing in a Sabre, certainly first time racing at LSC. Notice him scanning, so he looks around repeatedly for puffs, so maybe 3 or 4 times, and there is one coming, and he sees it. You can just see it as a little darker patch on the water, and when it hits him, he's already hiking. So he keeps the boat perfectly flat, which is an excellent technique. The last thing you want to do is wait for the puff to get you, heel over, and then start hiking like crazy to try and get the boat flat again. That's really slow. 2069, doing some subtle downturns. This is before the start on the surges. So aiming straight at the mark is always going to be slower. So use the waves to your advantage. If you get a nice little surge, go down with it. But notice he doesn't go down for too long. He gets a little acceleration, then he quickly comes back up again. That's usually a pretty fast technique, and he's got a nice heel to windward there. This next clip is 1810. He's demoing some downturns and upturns. He's got a bit more breeze, so he's a bit more aggressive. You can see he comes up, he does a downturn, and he comes up and he stays up. He comes hunting across looking for a better wave, and then eventually finds one where he can turn back down with speed. This next clip shows 1656. So he's out reaching across to the start line. Notice him holding the tiller behind his body. That's okay. I mean, it works, but it does limit what you can do. So in a way, you're better off to learn to get it across in front of your body all of the time. So you notice he does a little pump, but then he can't do any more. He can't trim on any further because his tiller hand's back on the deck. The only thing you do is put the main sheet back on top of that hand, which is awfully slow. He's on a beam reach in a moderate breeze, so have a look at the vang. It's off way too much, so there's a lot more power and speed available there. Bit more vang. This next clip is 2176, sailing upwind nicely. If I reckon if you asked him, he would say, yeah, I've got it flat. It can feel like you're keeping it flat, but if you look carefully, even when he gets a tiny puff every now and then, and he does hike a tiny bit, but I reckon having it flatter would be faster. Is 2176 again on the run this time. You do need to watch out for rule 42. So he does 3 or 4 pumps here. You're only allowed 1. This is 2069 on the run. Notice he's got a nice windward heel. When he gets a surge, like he picks up a little wave, notice him slide back just a little. So that's not a bad technique, particularly when it gets windier, so you don't keep hitting the bow into the back of the next wave. But when the boat slows down, watch carefully, he slides forward again. So these sort of subtle dynamics really make a difference. They just kind of an accumulation of very small things add up to better overall speed. 1751 is a lightweight sailor. He's probably about 65 kilos or so. He's fit and he does like to hike. You watch him, he sometimes works really, really hard. But he's on the edge of overpowered here, and he really should crank on the Cunningham, like get that down really hard. Keep the draft forward and make it much easier to handle. The foot looks like it's off just a little too much there as well. The other thing, probably more important than that, and that is be more willing to ease the sheet. So as soon as the boat's heeled too much, dump it a bit. That'll help keep the boat flat. And although it might feel a bit wonky, being flat, it is actually much faster. This is 2200 running, and he's got his weight well forward. It's a good technique, especially if you're heavy. So being a bigger fella, he would still benefit from steering down in the surges. So when he gets a run, if he was able to steer down and then hot it up once the run's nearly finished, don't wait till right to the end of it, hot it up a bit to keep some extra speed. And although it might not be all that noticeable, it does add up. By the time you get down to the bottom mark, if you've been using that technique, you'll get there earlier than if you didn't. This next clip is 735. Does a nice little downturn on the surge and builds up some speed. As I said, it's a good idea not to wait until the boat starts to slow down. So don't wait until you realise, it's accelerated down the wave, but now it's slowing up. Aim to go back to an upturn. So lean in a little bit, trim on, and use the minimal amount of rudder to hot it up and keep your higher speed. So don't wait till it goes back to slow again. Try and keep that higher speed, and if you can, link it with the next wave. And when the wind's up a little higher and you can link them together, the difference is enormous. Okay, this next clip's 1810. He's doing 5 things on the run here, which I think are fast. He's got the vang off a bit, so I can compare it with 2021 next to him. He's got his vang on quite tight. The vang off does make it a bit rolly on the run, but it is faster. And it also allows you to go by the lee. But that's a whole nother story. The second thing, he's got his front knee on the thwart, and that's locking him into the boat. So with his other leg slightly to leeward, he can be more dynamic. And you can see he's sort of probably close to offending Rule 42, but he's not doing repeated stuff. The boat is rolling around a fair bit, but that is faster. Third one is he uses a pump to get the boat surging, and that makes quite a difference. So then once he's got it going, he steers. You can see him steering back towards 2021 on a downturn, and then he comes up again to keep his speed on. The last thing I noticed is he's grabbing the front falls of the main sheet for a much quicker trim. So if you're using, and it's a quicker ease as well, if you're using a 4-to-1 main sheet system, grabbing the front falls gives you a 2-to-1, and so it's much better. And if you're using a 5-to-1 main sheet system, you still get a 3-to-1 by grabbing the front fall. The start. Keep your eyes here on 1810 and 2176. So they're sailing along a port tack back towards the fleet, and you might be thinking these guys are crazy. What the hell are they doing that for? But it's actually not a bad way to start, particularly if the fleet isn't too big and it's spread out. So they're looking for a hole to tack into, and you can see 1810 finds a nice spot, and so does 2176, and they get quite a good start there. Another advantage of that is if the fleet's really early, you can sail further along. If you realise they're all going to be bunched up at the pin, you can just sail further along for more space. And if they're too late, obviously you can tack earlier and get in front of them. Set yourself up 2069 does a lovely pin end start and goes on to win this race easily. So if you can get a good start, it sets you up and just makes it a whole lot easier. Fighting to get clear air and having to do 2 tacks to get clear air can sometimes give you enough of a disadvantage just to push you back a little bit and make it much harder to see what's going on. Oh well, hopefully you've seen something there for yourself, or maybe picked up a trick or two. Looking forward to the Nationals. I hope to see you there. Cheers from Matt.